Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. This is episode 262. I am joined, as always, on this chilly Thursday evening by my co-host Prez. That is at Presidente underscore Presidente on Twitter. Prez, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. By the time the this pod hits the streets, I will be about to go to my first Knicks game of the season here in DC. We'll see which Wizards suit up, but I'll be there in my inaugural usage of my Jalen Brunson jersey. So
Have you not worn it before?
no, I just got it like a month and a half ago. It's the I confuse what they call it. The not the city. The Is it the city or the statement? It's one of those. The Navy joint.
I'm the wrong person. I think that's the. Pretty sure that's the city one. I
It's
don't
the
know.
Navy joint with the orange trim, which is fire. And pretty much ever since I bought it, Brunson has been averaging like 8,000 points. So you're welcome, internet.
Yep. It's all down to you. You did it by buying his
Yep, I
jersey.
don't make the rules.
You and nobody else. All right, before we get started, I do have to make an announcement that the Strickland has a Patreon. You can subscribe to that. There are a number of tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this pod that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to the Strickland mailbag that comes out every other week that is hosted by Andrew Steele and Dallas Amico. You also get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never fucking stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier. You get access to my solo pod, Strick and Roll, where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful weekly articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly. Whether you choose to subscribe or not, none of this would be possible without you. And if you are interested, the Strickland also has an Instagram, which you can follow at thestrick.land on Instagram. Give us a follow. We're posting new content on there all the time. It would be a big help for us as we continue to try and grow the website. Also, we have a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are, please hit the like button and then subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000. Everybody that subscribes is doing us a huge favor. All right. Now, without further ado, let's get started. The Knicks have won another basketball game. They have now won 5 of their last 6 after losing 5 straight, after winning 8 straight, after starting 10 and 13. Very confusing season. But it's kind of, I want to say it's been fun, but it's like not really always been fun. But it's been a ride. It's been a journey. We are here. We are at 23-19. The Knicks beat why the hell? Well, they beat the Pacers, um, who they won the Halliburton Bowl yesterday, and they did it in very interesting fashion. One could say, but it was good to see. They came out 119-113 victors. I don't know. This was another game where they did a lot of the things they've been doing during the stretch, where they absolutely come out and crush the first and second quarters. Things get bogged down in the third, early in the third, and then they start, just shooting themselves in the foot for the last, 15 minutes of the game. Uh, but most of the time, they seem to hold it together and get wins. But it's a weird trend. I don't know where you want to go with that. I feel like I've talked about this same exact trend fucking 15 times going back to last season, so I really don't know what to say about it anymore. Other than that, I dismiss the entire notion that, well, a lot of teams doing it, so I guess you just got to live with that. I think that's horseshit. That's basically saying that you can't get better and there's nothing you can do about it and it's out of your control, which is nonsense. I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to that. And quite frankly, I think that effectively puts no blame on anybody. That's just saying, well, sometimes players will fuck up, sometimes coaches fuck up, and you can't do anything about that. And that's patently ridiculous. We know this because just as a a fucking like normal thing that any of us do in life is just like, hey, I suck at this thing. I should try to get better at this thing. Well, most of the time anyway. Sometimes you just accept you suck at something and live with it. But I assume basketball players try to get better at the basketball, and I assume basketball coaches try to figure out how to help the players at their disposal get better at the basketball. So I think that line of reasoning is ridiculous, and I also reject the idea that a team can be so dominant in the first and second quarters can be so unable to do the things that they did in the first two quarters with great success at all. So that's where I stand on that. And I wanted to say that before I let you apparently say a single word.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
So kind on this Thursday. No, I agree, and I'll say this for Indiana, like before we get into, if you want to, the particulars of what could be done differently. Rick Carlisle, he's a good coach most of the time, right? Last year was kind of weird. Wasn't his best coaching season. Coaches, we've talked about this before. Coaches have not all coaching seasons for the same coach are equally performed, right? Just like anybody, we all have years where we're better at our job than others. Roster this year much more Carlisle on many fronts.
Carlisle, nice.
Carlisle, yeah, copyright that. And one thing that's interesting to me is, like they didn't have several guys, right? So they didn't have Miles Turner, scratched at the last minute. They didn't have Andrew, ghost of Ron Artest, Nesmith, who beasted us for like 23 points and 11 rebounds last time, which was, I say non-sarcastically, I was truly impressed by, because he was truly a one-dimensional player coming into the league, and they stole him from Boston, pumped him full of horse steroids, and told him, you're the power forward now, bruh, because they had a big hole at power forward, and even mediocre is a big upgrade over what they were doing for a lot of the year. So good on Carlisle and Nesmith for doing that, but they didn't have him yesterday. Nesmith, Turner, they were missing someone else.
Well, they lost Halliburton during the
game. So they lost Hallie later,
which actually worked in their favor. But
so that's what I was gonna. I mean, Hallie has his talents on offense, of course, but he's not really on defense. I think we can agree that his struggles are probably not covered that much. I mean, he's 20, whatever. Fuck it. Like, I'm not gonna. I'll say this: it's interesting that he gets all this hype and minimal coverage of his weaknesses, because usually 20-year-old prospects who have limelight, unless they're true, like express ticket Hall of Famers like Luka or something, like even Jason Tatum back when he was 20, we were like, is this the part where he like drives the ball, or does that come later? Like,
that took him a long time, actually. That actually kind of took until like this year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, he's just, when you're that talented, you can rely on your gifts, and with Halliburton, it's much the same way. Like, he's very talented at offense in a lot of ways. He has things that I'm sure he'll improve, just like Tatum did over the years, just like most guys improve. But on defense, he's really slight. He can't really physically impose himself, and he's not short, and he has decent length, but it doesn't really matter because he's not particularly fast or strong. So like for our guards in particular, who are so like they're like all like compact boulders of different heights, basically, even IQ. It's a lot to deal with. And then, you replace that with fucking Nick Killer Hall of Famer nemesis legend TJ McConnell, University of Arizona legend, who I pattern my game after in real life, which, is that a compliment? Is that an insult? Is that self-deprecating? I'll leave it to you listeners to interpret. But TJ McConnell, Andrew Nemhard is, he's not a young rookie, and he's small, but he gives a shit on defense, right? Like, we knew that coming in. That was one of his things, more than his offense, really. So they had superior guard defense, and they were like, hey, Knicks, we're going to throw a curveball at you. Usually the curveball that teams throw at the Knicks on defense is zone.
Has Embiid had like braids going on for a while or something?
No, super recent, like yesterday or the day before.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan.
he looks terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not good for him for experimenting. I've been there. It was COVID. I was trying to grow my hair out and all that shit. But bring your fro back, bro. I
Yeah,
need him.
nobody
What I
wants.
need him to do is I need him to get like a fucking Ben Wallace giant fro headband combo because
You
he's
know who needs to do
physically
that? Quickly just needs to do that because he has it.
quickly has done like the big hair before.
He's only done it for like two. He did it for like 2 games, and then he was
Yeah.
like, "No, I got to get my like Christian braids on."
I don't want him to whatever he's doing, keep it the same. Don't listen to Schwinn's fucking hair advice. He's hooping right now. Keep it the same. You already know my feelings on who on the Knicks need to change their fucking hair. It's Jericho Sims. Especially if they get him in the dunk contest. Come on, bro. Don't embarrass us with that fucking what's that dude on the Simpsons?
Oh, I Krusty the Clown.
No, there's another guy with like that kind of hair. I don't know. All right. One of the other Strickland people who watches all the fucking TV shows can figure it out. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so the curveball from the Pacers was pressure defense. So the Pacers are I think they score the most fast break points, and they're very much run and gun, more so than anybody in the NBA, I think. And when you actually couple that with pressure defense, it's like it goes from 10 to 11. They're running and gunning. And I was curious, so I was looking at our transition numbers throughout the year, and it's been pretty up and down. On the whole, cumulatively, we're fine, like middle to a little bit above average. But we have like weird streaks of good transition defense and poor transition decent defense. But I think the combination of like ball pressure and them running really flustered the Knicks, and they also threw very effective double teams at Brunson and Randle, who their first inclination is not to immediately pass. And they didn't adjust, right? Like they like to hold, survey, then pass. It's not like they're not interested in passing. They're just not gonna quick hit, snap pass like Quickly and Grimes will do. And we saw that towards the very end of the game when Quickly had that dagger assist to Grimes for the dagger 3. That was not wait, survey. That was read, react in the true sense. And I think on the coaching side, it's just sucks to have no adjustment. Eventually, I don't know what if it was like 2 minutes or 3 minutes or even less when he finally put Randle at the 5 with 4 ball handlers. But it like we've seen teams do the zone thing against the Knicks, whatever. We've also seen them do the high pressure physical defense before, namely every fucking time we play the Raptors. And the Pacers did it this go around. They can't normally do it because of Halliburton, but without Hallie, they could do it. And the natural, just like the way to defeat a basic zone that we can never fucking do is stick a tall passer in the middle and spray to shooters. The way to handle pressure is not via over dribbling; it's via quick passing and having ball handlers so that there's more outlets and more people to make passes and more people to receive passes. But he stayed big with Mitch on the floor for a while there, which means you basically have one less outlet, and it increases the pressure on your guys to dribble more. And I'm like, dude, it's the fucking Pacers. Like, they're not about to score at the rim a bunch of times to win the game. They're gonna just shoot threes. You don't need Mitch for this stretch. And he just refused to adjust until very late, which is his MO. I mean, I guess we should be happy he adjusted at all. But this stuff isn't rocket science, and it's not abdicating. Like Jalen Brunson had some bad turnovers, and he was the first one to say in the post game, like, "Hey, I can't do that stuff," and he's right. He shouldn't do that stuff. They should move the ball, but at the same time, you have a deep team. You have to use your flexibility. If Rick Carlisle and the Pacers, who are down a couple guys, can still find flexibility to adjust their game plan, and they're in the same boat as you, none of these teams are competing for the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Like the Pacers are not, the Knicks probably are not, barring a surprise or a new coach. But like, look, Carlisle's an expert at this shit. His team doesn't have the same depth the Knicks do, but they were like, hey, like we're rearranging it. We're playing different players. We're changing our strategy. It's not some fucking admission of whack planning your strategy. No, that's just the modern game. If you don't have a superstar, your strength is in depth, likely, if you're a good team. And the Pacers and the Knicks are similar in that way. The difference is Rick Carlisle was much more adaptable in the face of adversity than Thibs was, and he almost stole the game from us. Thankfully, we were able to pull it out. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened at the end there, but we were able to pull it out. It just shows you the value of that versatility, and it's one of those reasons that like should we make it to the playoffs, the Knicks probably have more. I wouldn't say probably, they do have more talent than the Pacers, but the combination of depth and a coach that's willing to take advantage of it. Like, would I be surprised if the Pacers did better than the Knicks in the playoffs? Not really. They're willing to adapt, right? Especially if you have less talent, you have to adapt. And if the Knicks play the Pacers in the playoffs, maybe they won't have to adapt. But if they play fucking Boston or Embiid or something, guess what? They're gonna have to adapt. But I have no confidence that this team will be able to do that, which is why we constantly underperform our talent. And I know there's, for most of the season, people who are like, "Oh, we have the talent of 500 or less." No, we don't, dude. Like I said on the last pod, we have 2 All-Stars and several 20, $25 million players, 3 at least, probably 4 if you consider Mitch underpaid. So there's my spiel. I'm happy we won though, because
Yeah,
that
I'm
game
happy
before that kind of sucked.
I'm happy we won. I'm thrilled about that. That's great. I don't really understand why. Like, I just see like a lot of people are like, "Well, why are you complaining? Like, we won the game," and it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't really understand what that's supposed to mean. Like, so if something happens that's good, you can't complain about any element of it. Like, I don't know. I don't get that. Because like this isn't like the '96 Bulls. This isn't like, oh well, Mike just had an off game tonight, but we figured it out because Rodman randomly made his free throws tonight. Like, no, this is not that. This is like a team that's like got to figure shit out and doing and part of that is on players to figure their shit out, but part of that's like on Thibs to put them in better positions. And like look, the trapping blitzing stuff, like sure, some of that is fundamentally just like Brunson. I thought Brunson actually like look. I'll just say, who cares? I mean, I can just say this. Like, I thought he was really bad in the fourth quarter yesterday, and I know he had a couple big shots, but I thought he was really bad. Like he didn't.
I mean, he'll be the first one to say that.
Yeah, I
Like
mean he can
he had
say
a
it,
he
but
had a rough go of it.
he's had a lot of rough goes in the fourth quarter lately. He's got to get his shit together. Like I'm sorry. Like enough of these possessions where he's just I don't know why he has these possessions where like Julius calls for it in the middle of the floor and he's just like, okay, I'll do that. Like no, like that's not a good possession. That's not a good possession. Tell his ass to get out of there. I don't want to see that. Like, if you're gonna dribble, and especially if you're gonna dribble the ball for like 12 seconds where you do anything, then just keep the fucking ball. I don't want to enough of that shit. All right. And quite frankly, I thought his turnovers yesterday in the fourth were ridiculous. He had one where he gave it up, bringing it up on the left side of the floor, and he just casually crossed it up in front of McConnell, who easily stripped him. He had another one where he just threw it. Luckily, Julius actually saved his ass in this. Luckily, he threw it in. McConnell tipped it up like a very casual pass in to Randle. McConnell tipped it up. Luckily, Julius was able to grab the loose ball. And then he had another one where he's bringing the ball up late up the floor. He's got McConnell on a 1-on-1. He doesn't see Goga's just kind of like hanging out back there. And he spins right into Goga. Luckily, the ball spun out of bounds. But it's like, look, I'm. This isn't like, oh, Brunson's a problem, and like we no.
No,
He's
he's a
just got
great fourth quarter scorer,
yeah,
but like you have to, if it, like the bar is very high for him as the point guard for the team. It's not enough to score. You can't just give high octane offenses other
yeah,
chances.
right. And he had a bad fourth quarter yesterday. I don't care. I don't know how many shots he made. I don't know how many points he had.
No, it's fair to
Yeah,
say. Like
yeah. He
there's
didn't have a
there's
he didn't
nothing
have a
wrong
good.
to say he had a
Yeah,
good game and a bad fourth.
yeah. He had a
Whatever.
bad fourth quarter.
Yeah, shit
And
happens.
I thought Julius just had a bad game. I thought Julius had a bad game, flat out. I didn't think he played that well. I thought in the first half for a little bit anyway, he was able to just kind of like move the ball and generally like let other guys cook and stuff. But like he got into his own head in the second. He just had bouts throughout the entire game, really, where he's like because the Pacers are sending this soft double out of him every time he got the ball, and he's like
He looked very
waiting.
out of sorts. It was very weird.
Yeah, he was pouting a lot yesterday.
It
I don't know
wasn't
what was
even
going on with him.
pouting to me. It was like almost like he was like not sleepwalking, but like he kind of just looked like out of it. Like I don't know. Well,
I
it
don't
was
know.
really weird.
He was weird yesterday, and he just kept making really stupid turnovers. He had like at least 3 or 4 that were just stupid. Like honestly, no other way to describe it other than that. Just really dumb turnovers. Um, kept taking the soft double and then would try to like step through, and it's like you're overcomplicating stuff. Like if you see the double coming, there's a pretty easy swing pass on either side or across. Like just make the simple read. You don't have to hit a home run every single time. It's fine to just get on base and let somebody else drive in the runs, dude. Like you don't have to be the one to do it every fucking time.
What I'm
So
curious is I mentioned this on Twitter about Brunson, and the same goes true for Randall. Both of them have been on absolute tears, but a lot of that has been you haven't seen much hard doubling. You'll see soft doubling on those guys, and soft doubling doesn't really, to their credit, it hasn't really impacted them so much. But yesterday was one of the few times, and the game before that, for Brunson, this is the first time we're seeing teams really dare them to pass, and between the zone defense and those kind of pressure situations, particularly when they're like in the backcourt or near the sidelines, I wouldn't be suspected if other teams begin to try that out now that, the Knicks, they're no longer a surprise, right? Like teams know you can come back against the Knicks. Teams know you can throw zones at them. You can throw pressure at them. So teams have options, right? There's a playbook now. So just like before, teams assumed Julius would settle for a jump shot, and he killed them for it by saying, "Hey, I'm actually not going to settle a lot of the time this year, and you're not 250 pounds, so there's nothing you can do about it." Like the league is adjusting back to these guys. So this is one of those things where it's on both player and coach and coaching staff, frankly, to just continue kind of the game of cat and mouse throughout the season. So it'll be really interesting to see how they deal with that.
yeah, I don't know. I just think they're doing a shitty job of trusting teammates. That's what
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
that's what it comes down to. It's like your first instinct is score, 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 especially in crunch time. In earlier in the game, they're much more willing to pass it. Brunson had one pass earlier in the game that was like breathtaking. That was like a fucking cross court laser. And so, we've talked about this with a lot of the Knicks. Like, it's not like these guys aren't capable of doing the simple thing. There's a lack of trust there for teammates and for the process of doing those passings. And this is one of the downsides of making your offense extremely isolation heavy is when a team throws that curveball, you have no counter because you're only used to playing one way. You're not used to making quick decisions. We see it all the fucking time. It's why they suck at zone and it's why they suck at pressure defense. All of these things require, like, in the zones are another example. There's,
Okay, hold on, no, hold on. They don't suck at it. They actually have a guy who's really fucking good at breaking all these things. They don't
they
give him the
except for
ball.
quickly.
They don't give him the ball. So like this is the part of it where it's like, yeah, it's on them, and I do like I think that Randall has like all they have. Of course, they got to make better decisions on the floor. But like you're like he had this quote yesterday after the game, and I was like, I think that somebody asked him why Grimes didn't come in until so late, and he said something like, "Oh, well, I wanted to have another ball handler on the floor." It doesn't matter if you have another ball handler on the floor if you don't let him handle the fucking ball. Like that's just the fact of it. Like you can have 15 ball handlers on the floor. If you're only going to give it to Brunson or Randall, and those are the only guys that are allowed to do something, then you're not going to succeed from it. And if you're not going to deviate your offensive strategy at all, you're going to have to deal with the same shit. Like, okay, you have a team that's trapping and blitzing you. You know what would be awesome? You know what would be great to have if a team's trapping and blitzing you? What if you had like a really good downhill power forward that was capable of making plays against a tilted defense with the numbers advantage? What if you had a guy like that on your bench? Wow, that would be really cool, right? That would be like a great time to maybe use him, maybe give him a little more of a run, especially if the other team went small. And it's like this never goes through
It's
his
so
head.
stupid. We have Obi, we have IQ, we even have Hartenstein and Sims
Right.
can both pass off the short roll.
Well,
Like we,
especially Hartenstein, and I wanted to say this because I've killed Hartenstein, and I'm still like I thought he sucked again yesterday, but it's like this yesterday was a perfect game where it's like okay, you've got this guy in the game, they're playing this, the defense they were playing in the second half was effectively they were just trapping and blitzing constantly. So anytime you actually did move the ball, you'd get like a wide open three, and like the Knicks missed a bunch of wide open
that's
threes
what
too.
happens. People want like sometimes Knicks fans wonder. Like I've seen people on Twitter like, oh, like I can't believe like the Pacers and the Raptors are like they're so bad at defense. It's like yeah, because against the Knicks they look like the fucking Gary Payton Supersonics. But most other teams are like, oh, if you just jujitsu and move the ball, then like it's automatically an open
Well,
shot.
yeah, and
Not
it's like
complicated.
well, and the Knicks got plenty of open like RJ missed a bunch in the fourth
Sure,
quarter,
sure, sure.
and I think Quickly missed one in the fourth, and Grimes probably missed one, and Randall, like all these guys probably missed an open shot here or there. There's no question about it. But the point is like your reaction to missing open shots cannot be well. Let's not do that, or let's not try to hunt these shots in a better fashion. And like, do I think that like I actually would say like yesterday is one where more than most games, I would say like it's not like I don't think yesterday was an example of us just totally deviating from like we're just trying to grind it out, walk the ball up. I mean, we did walk the ball up a lot, but I don't think that was just because we were trying to. It's also because of the pressure defense they were playing, right? And like how we were handling that. So it wasn't a function of like Tibbs is just telling them to walk the ball up. It was a function of we did not adjust to the what they were doing, and because of that, they were able to slow us down and bog us down, and we got into a lot of shitty situations. So but like the point is like you okay, that happens for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. The lead goes up to like 25 even during this time, right? Because the Knicks were initially like doing a good job of swinging the ball, finding the open man. They ended up getting to the penalty early, so they got to the foul line pretty easily. Like they were doing things that were good. But then they like you run into a rut, and as soon as they go into a rut, right, they stupid turnovers and ISO ball and
They
all
have
this
one.
shit.
They have one changeup.
Right. And
They have
so
one changeup.
I just
Slow ball.
yeah. And so like to me, that's just a game where it's like I would love to believe, and I hope I will be optimistic and hope to believe that like Tibbs sees, okay, I went to this weird lineup. It's not even that weird a lineup to be honest. But I went to the small lineup for the last 115, probably out of some level of desperation. I risked not having a true rim protector on the floor, right? And I had a lineup of Brunson, Quickly, Grimes, RJ, and Randall, where all five of these guys to some degree can shoot, can dribble, can pass. They're all some type of threat with the ball in their hands. They're all some type of threat spotting up from behind the arc. Like that all of a sudden, the Knicks ran two actual half court possessions with that group. They got an open short mid range pull up, like an 8 foot mid range pull up for Brunson, which he missed. And by the way, on that shot, he had Quickly and Grimes absolutely the fuck wide open in the corner if he wanted to pass it.
Yep.
He missed that shot. He should have made that pass. And actually, I'll say this: that's a pass that he's not made on a few occasions in late game situations this year. It didn't cost us yesterday, and like I don't hate the shot he's taking, but it would be nice to see him trust a teammate every now and then in that spot. That's all I'll say about that because I don't like he shoots like 6,000% on it. So if he just wants to shoot it, also like I get it. But at the same time, I think there are times where I'd like to see him pass it. Okay, he misses that. Next possession down, quickly gets into the paint. He sets up. He first of all he gets a switch because they're switching and they're doing all this trapping, so they're scrambling all over. He gets a switch onto Goga. He just sizes up Goga. Doesn't even have to really do a move on him. Just blows by him. All the Pacers collapse because that's what
Simple,
happens in a defense like this.
like
Everybody
Clyde would
collapses.
say, simple basketball,
Right.
man.
Everybody collapses, and he sets up Grimes for an open three, and that's the game. That's the ball game right there, basically. Like why you couldn't try? I understand. Okay, you want to see if Mitch, like, if you can impose your will after they cut the lead to 16. Fine. You want to see if you can impose your will when they cut the lead to 10. Early in the fourth quarter. Sure, fine. But like at some point before that, it's just crazy, and it's not just this game, but it's like, what are the odds we've? I don't. I'll look it up right now. I would venture to guess that we have never seen that lineup before, not once. I would be my guess that we've never, and I would guess if it's up, like I would love to be wrong about this. We'll see. I would guess that we will not see that lineup unless it's out of sheer desperation or foul trouble or whatever. Like it's not going to happen unless it's forced upon Thibs or it's just some insane desperate situation. Um, and that's really frustrating to me because you watch that lineup and it's dynamic.
It has advantages. This is the thing. Like obviously, there's times where you don't want to run that lineup. It's not
Okay,
fucking.
that lineup. This is hilarious. That lineup has actually apparently played 8 minutes together this year.
How
In
many
those
were
eight,
yesterday?
it would have been a minute 15. They didn't play more than that. I mean, I guess I would assume these minutes are like extremely highly situational minutes. 8 minutes, 140.91. Offensive rating, 86.36. Defensive rating. If there is some level of like something to hang your hat on for why, I mean, look, they're not gonna, that definitely wouldn't sustain over. That's a plus 54 and a 54.55 net rating. I will go out on a limb and say that's not going to sustain no matter what. But like one reason to be somewhat optimistic about what maybe that could do over the long run is just the fact that in those 8 minutes, they haven't even shot the three well. They're 16.67% from three. Opponents are also shooting the same percent. These are extremely small sample sizes, but usually if something skews, you want to, it might skew there. The fact that it hasn't skewed there is encouraging despite it being a small sample size. But like, there's no reason to think that this wouldn't cause a lot of teams problems to defend. Like, like you've got.
Anytime there's a team that does that satisfies either of these two conditions. One, they just straight up don't have size at the five, or they rely on ball pressure extensively. Then this lineup is a fantastic solution. It's like a no-brainer, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one like, again, if like we're gonna play Miami at some point. I don't know when the fuck we're playing them. Like they trap, they blitz, they switch, they do a lot of weird shit. Okay, like that would be a lineup to consider trying against them. And guess what? They don't have like a bunch of like dynamic dribble drive players or something. Like yeah, Butler gets to the rim, but Butler gets to the rim in the way that like RJ gets to the rim. It's not exactly, you know, like you're blowing past guys and you're just elevating for like monster dunks or something. He's very methodical. Bam is a really good player, but Bam, if Bam's gonna beat me because of that lineup, so be it. Like, and this isn't to say you need to play this lineup 48 minutes or it should be your primary lineup or that it should happen every single night. Like, no, but it should be one that we should see consistently. Like, it should be one that we see, oh, we're playing the Clippers tonight. Okay, let's try this out because they play small and like they play a bunch of minutes without a center, and it's not just with that combination, right? It can be with other combinations. Like, you can try Obi and Randall together for sure against a team like Indiana last night. You could have easily done that. But like you have to try. And again, like I don't think I don't want to say Thibs. I don't think he coached a particularly good game. I don't think he coached a bad game, but it was a game where you just saw like, okay, the lead is gradually, and you could feel it. You could feel it shifting at the end of that third quarter, and you could definitely feel it at the start of the first quarter or the fourth quarter. And his only adjustment, which was insane to me, was just like, okay, well, Hartenstein got a minute. Let me bring Mitch back in. Oh, Deuce, you fucked up. Let me bring Jalen Brunson back in. There's not a thought of like, of doing anything else but just getting your best guys back in. And that's not an adjustment. And that's actually like, yes, that's part of coaching, but that's like the least inspiring version of a good coach.
Sometimes I just wonder if all of this shit stems from like back in the Chicago days, because you can, if you're like a fucking one, like a true one seed, yeah, you can impose your will 90% of the time. Like the Nuggets don't have to adjust their play style that much. Like, no, y'all are gonna fucking deal with Jokic, and it is what it is. That's that. But like, if you have Derrick Rose and prime Joakim Noah and all that shit, it works. But if you're battling now, especially where the league is in terms of just coaching and strategies and everybody's maximizing offense and you have a lot more information at your fingertips for decision making, like that shit don't cut it, man. Like it's not just like people, like you said before, it's not just like, oh, teams can get back into it because because of leads and stuff, and you're just a helpless bystander. Like you, we've seen this movie. Like you're
Well,
allowed to
if you
adjust.
lose leads, and you're trying different things, then at that point you could probably just be like, "Look, I have 6 really good players, but I don't have anything after that, right? These
Right.
other guys aren't doing anything for me. I've tried different things. I genuinely, I don't think it's even fair to say he's tried different things. Like, it's fair to say he's maybe tried different lineup
We
combinations.
haven't even
That's
run zone defense
right.
once.
Yeah, like that's
I
it's
don't have the data in front of me, but I genuinely wonder, like, what other teams have literally. No, no,
we've
I
never
know,
yet.
but like, is there any? I wonder if there's any other team that has literally run no zone defense possessions.
Maybe. I mean, maybe there's a few like it's possible. There's no
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just curious. That's
but
all.
I would venture I would guess that it is the minority of teams. And again,
Absolutely,
it's not so
we
much
know
like
because how many of them shits have we seen against
right.
us?
And the main issue is like if so there's I don't care. People can be like, well, that's just what happens at the end of games. Things slow down. Like, okay, yeah, sure, things slow down and fine, but like, you cannot tell me the offensive style and just general game plan we have routinely in third and fourth quarters is what we were in the first and second quarters, and that would be acceptable to me. Like, you can't deviate what you do offensively, but never deviate what you do defensively or with lineups or with rotations, and like you can't if you're gonna deviate one, then you have to be you have then you're what you're tacitly saying is that like strategy and approach can and should change depending on the state of it, like the status, the game state, right, the score, whatever it is. If you're not willing to do that defensively, or if you're not willing to alter rotations and lineups at times also, like then you're just like you're really not making any sense to me. Like that doesn't make any sense because you're applying one standard to the offensive side of the ball, but you're saying the other side is actually totally different. Like no, that has to stay the same always because reasons. Like, which obviously doesn't make sense. And again, yesterday, like, thank God he brought Randle in, and it looked like they had a plan when Randle came into the 5 and Mitch went out that like they were going to start switching everything. And Randle actually got a really good contest on Buddy. Buddy tried to sell a bullshit foul, didn't happen. Also, that and one that Buddy got in his favor was not an and one. That was bullshit.
The RJ one.
Yeah, that was bullshit. There
I
was
don't
no
think he
contact.
touched him.
He didn't. He didn't touch
Yeah.
him. But like, it's just I'm happy he did that. But it's like now, like, because I remember a game. I will never forget this game we played in Brooklyn. This is his first year, Thibs' first year. They were torching us in the first half. Oh my god, absolutely lighting us up. I think they had a Harden and KD or Harden and Kyrie. One of the big three was out, but they had two, and they're just lighting us up. Right, Harden's running screen and roll, drop, kick out to a three. Harden runs screen and roll, drop. He gets in a floater range cash. It was just a constant barrage. And they blitz us for like 70 points in the first half. And in the second half, Thibs actually deviated. He switched a lot more. He played Frank a bunch. He played Randle at the 5. We started switching, and we got back in the game. We nearly won it. But it was like I remember watching that game. I'm like, so like you do understand, like you do 100% get that like this is possible and that this is a viable strategy actually at times. You just don't want to do it because it's not comfortable for you, basically. Like that's what it is. It's not comfortable for him. It's not what he prefers. And so if he can avoid it, he will. But that restricts kind of like you never get to see what like I would like to see just how do we react for 3 minutes when you go to that lineup down 7 in the fourth quarter. Like you're never gonna know if that works until you do it, and you're not gonna know in what situations it will work and in what situations it absolutely won't unless you do it. And the fact that like he understands, he definitely gets that like it can work and it can be extremely valuable at times. He definitely gets that. He's just so unwilling to go to that place, right? Like the one time this year we really saw him go to Randle and Obi for a meaningful stretch was that random game in Philly, right? Where we were kind of down in the fourth quarter, just looking for a spark, and he went to it, and that worked. But like but like did we learn? Like, what did we learn from that? How often has he gone to that since then? these are the things that are like so weird to me about him, where he definitely fundamentally understands like these things can work in situations. He's just so unwilling to get to that place ever.
I was just looking at the last 2 minutes report and to see after you mentioned the bullshit call, and they ruled the RJ thing correct. They said Barrett makes contact with Hield's arm during the release of his jump shot.
No, he didn't. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I don't know. Yeah, I can't see it.
But he just felt funny. That's all.
There were 2 incorrect calls though. They went against the Knicks. Surprise. So
Yeah.
That tends to happen. I'll say this. I went on this rant once on Twitter, and it doesn't have to be a long thing, but like NBA officiating sucks. Like I for years I had been like, I'm not saying it's worse than college. I think college officiating is worse. College is just like the wild fucking west. But like
they do a lot. They let a lot more contact go in college.
That's whatever. That's fine. I college is just wild. Like you don't know what you're gonna get game to game, and the NBA is just getting like that. Like I just like obviously, you have to adjust to how the game's being called. Like that's always been the case, but with the way players take advantage of ambiguities in the rules now and things like that, it's so bad. It's even worse. Like I legit don't know on any given, like if you just ask me like what is a foul, what is a foul when you're guarding somebody at 3 point, what is a foul, like nobody can answer these fucking questions, like very basic questions, like what is a foul in X situation, like what kind of contact is allowed under the rim, what kind of nobody knows the answer to these situations. So it just becomes game by game, refs constantly reward reputation rather than what they actually see. It's really annoying. This is a super imperfect measure, but like I looked at fouls drawn by all-star reserves over the last couple of years. And the reason I chose all-star reserves is because at the top of the league, these motherfuckers, like, they may take advantage of the rules, but they're also just all varying degrees of some unstoppable force. Like, even back in the day, like, Harden's bullshit was super fucking annoying, but, like, he was also faster and stronger than everybody he played, and he knew how to exploit the rules. Like, guys hit his arm and whatever. Like,
the one that drove me absolutely fucking nuts yesterday was they called a foul on quickly because Mathurin shoved his elbow in his face. Like, what is he supposed to do? He's up straight with his arms up. Mathurin jumps with his elbow out. It hits quick in the face, like grazes him in the face. Really, it's not even like it's not like Mathurin elbowed him in the face, but he grazed him in the face, and that's a shooting foul. Like I don't know. And I gotta say, man, Mathurin gets a fucking wild whistle for a rookie. He straight up tackled Mitch yesterday. And they were just like, "Oh, that's just a common foul." I'm like, he's built like fucking Ray Lewis, and he tackled him. I think that should be a little bit more than just a common foul here. Like, what the fuck?
Mitch gets fucking destroyed. By the way, one of the incorrect calls was the play where Goga, air quotes, stripped Jalen Brunson. He didn't strip him. He kicked the ball.
He kicked
the ball, and they didn't call. Like that was on the report. Like incorrect call. Like he kicked the ball.
I mean, he kicked him. In fairness, though, like Brunson basically just dribbled into him. Like he just ran into him. It was
whatever. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, you can't miss a kickball. It's a kickball. It's a kickball.
We got the ball back though, anyway, right? So
yeah, because this motherfucker like did a like breakdance slide out of bounds. It was credit Goga, man. He came in, he hit that three. He was trying his ass off. Yeah, it was just mad funny to see him. He's so huge. He just slid like 20 feet.
I do want to say this. We can talk. Let's talk a little bit about RJ because I thought RJ had a really good game, and then he had a bad fourth quarter. I'm just giving him a pass for the fourth quarter because there's his first game back.
Minutes.
Yeah, however many. I don't know how many days 40, games. Whatever. Like he hasn't played in a while. You can do all the running you want, and I'm sure he's done plenty. You can do all the conditioning work, all the gym work, all that shit. You're not gonna be able to just play 40 NBA minutes. Like it doesn't work like that. And it was bananas to me that Thibs basically was just played him. He played the entire fourth quarter, I think. I'm almost positive he played the entire fourth quarter, which is crazy because we had Quentin Grimes available. So, like, you could have just sat RJ for 2 or 3 minutes, even, or 4 or 5, however many. But you could have sat him for a little bit, even if you wanted to bring him back in later. And predictably, he was so short on all of his threes, which was annoying because almost all of them were online except for that
Oh, the
disgusting,
fourth quarter ones,
yeah,
yeah.
except for that disgusting air ball he threw up. But like you could tell he had no legs. He is, I went back and watched it. I didn't notice how
And it's
poor some of his
particularly egregious when they're running like
5 out.
5 out and 5 out focused with Buddy.
Yeah,
Like that
and
he's hard to guard anywhere, let alone fucking sprinting around this shit. But
yeah,
we have somebody who's really good at that, who's
well,
just
yeah,
hanging out on the bench.
and like I didn't, I didn't understand that, and it's like, look, in even within that, did he make poor decisions? Yeah, that pass he threw to Mitch was ridiculous at the end of the fourth quarter. Like, he also threw that instantly off the inbounds. Like, what? Like, you don't desperately need to get it in, and if you do, you definitely don't need to desperately get into fucking Mitch there. Okay, calm down. But like he forced up 2 or 3 shots that were just awful, like bad shots. Well, one of them was like actually both of them were at the end of the clock, but they both were after he could have passed it to somebody who was open, which surprise, surprise, like goes back to the first issue we talked about, right? But like, I mean, he just looked like a tired guy to me, making stupid, tired decisions at a certain point. Like, does he need to be better and fight? Sure, fine. I don't know how to parse through it, but like, I think we can say, like, I think it's okay to say, yeah, Tibbs fucked that up. Like, just it's not, and that's not even like kill Tibbs. No, just like, yeah, dude, probably should have just like give it. Like, I think Grimes ended up with 30 something minutes, barely over 30 minutes, and RJ had about 40. Like, you couldn't have given 5 of his minutes to Grimes in the fourth. Like, like that couldn't have happened. Um, and so like I don't know, I don't really get that, and you know to go back to the lineup thing we are talking about, I've seen a lot of people say like, "Oh man, like this is going to be such an issue for Tibbs to like, do you close with Grimes and RJ? Do you close with Quickly and RJ? Do you close with Quickly and Grimes? Like this is such a like thing now that he has to like work out and figure out what's the best." And it's like, I mean, I agree that like that presents some challenges, but one, that's a
Sure,
good problem. That's a good
sure.
problem to have. And then the other thing is like you can maybe sometimes close without Mitch, like, and play all of those guys. Like it's not just we have to pick two of those three guys. Like it can be Mitch that sits at the end of a game one time. Shit, it can be Brunson if he doesn't have it going one day, which apparently is never going to happen. But like, it can be Randall if he's playing good jackass. It can be like there should be situations for any of this stuff. And this, like, of course, on the whole, like you're going to close with RJ and Brunson and Randall, not necessarily just because they're your best players, or we can debate that if we want, but like, yes, there is a reality of like these are your three highest paid players. So I understand like you're going to close them most of the time, but that doesn't need to mean all of the time. And it certainly doesn't mean they have to close with a traditional five on the floor. Like there are opportunities
The
for him to do.
Blazers, I always go back to the Blazers. What does Nurk get? He gets about what Mitch gets, right?
Same.
15,
He
16,
gets more. He
17.
gets more. He got 472 this summer.
Yeah, the Blazers, they know Dame is their best player. They know Simons for his shitty defense is still really important on offense. And everyone else is just like, to use an ironic word, situational, right? Like this is just the league. I know our whole shtick more so than the Blazers is rebound. Like we're not oblivious to the rebounding struggles of a lineup without a true five here, right? Like Shwin is the rebounding evangelist of the fucking internet. Like this guy, rebounding is his favorite. Back when he did draft stuff, was like his number one evaluation metric was just fucking rebounds per game. And like it's okay. Like in the thing about the end of the game, I'm actually a little less worried about the rebounding stuff at the end of the game, because that's one of the few times that it's
Well, we
not
were
uncommon to see Julius lock into his rebounding responsibilities more at the end of the games, to his credit, because it's the end of the games, right? Like you don't bullshit as much, hopefully. So Uh,
Well also like to be fair, like we didn't our worst rebounding quarter was the fourth, and again like I saw Mitch absolutely fucking fuck up a box out on was it Isaiah Jackson? Maybe it was Isaiah. Yeah, no, it was Jalen Smith. Yeah, it was Jalen Smith. And it's like it's probably just because it happened like right when he came back in for Hartenstein, which was after he got all of 1 minute of rest, right? Like he's probably just fucking tired. So all of a sudden, you were keeping these guys off the offensive glass the entire game, and now all of a sudden Goga's getting rebounds over him, and Chris Duarte is getting rebounds over RJ Barrett, and like this stuff isn't just because like all of a sudden they stopped trying. They played a bunch of minutes. They're probably tired. And they didn't just play a bunch of minutes. They played a bunch of minutes right in a row. Right in a row. So like I just I'm even if he only trusts these six guys, which I think is where he's at right now, you still have to do a better job of buying them rest when they need it. And like yesterday was a night quickly played 26 minutes. Play him more. You know, like
this isn't unknowable. That's the most frustrating thing. Like people act like there's no like asking for these solutions is like wanting him to break the mold of modern coaching. Like, bro, no, it's literally Tibbs, Glenn, and Nurse. They're the only fucking people who are like, 45 minutes in a row for you guys. Everybody else is like, oh yeah, these human beings need rests because NBA basketball is fucking crazy. And even if it's just like, oh, I'm gonna steal you away for like 1 minute here, like, guess what? They're not. The other team is not gonna go on a 15-0 run in 1 minute.
and also like I mean, these are just small things, but he's like he hasn't he didn't play the Grimes quickly deuce lineup at all yesterday. I don't think he's like now made that always RJ because he wants a second handler on the floor, and I get that, but I'm also like, dude, those three guys together have been for whatever reason that group has worked really well together on several occasions and over their minutes have been like really effective. And I don't know what's going on with like the quickly RJ minutes lately have been weird, especially because for some reason he has like Deuce bring the ball up, and Deuce can't dribble right now, or like doesn't know how to dribble when he plays in the NBA, and is playing with no confidence. So he takes like 10 seconds to bring the ball up and get anything organized. It's just stupid. Like you have quickly and RJ on the floor, just let them do it. And like yeah. So anyway, I want like the RJ thing is like I thought he played well. I'm happy that he's
He
back.
played tremendous
Yeah,
on the whole. Like I fucking like I was. He had two no backboard finishes that I thought were fucking beautiful. I thought his shooting was very crisp. I don't know. I can't put my finger on why it looked crisp to me. At first, I was like, "Is it a
it was smooth. It
little?"
was very confident.
I was like, "Is it a lower release? Is what like it? Like all them shits. It felt like they were all fucking net."
Yeah, yeah, he looked good, and then look, he gets tired at the end. It is what it is, but like, yeah, I thought he looked really good, and I'm
It's a
very
good
happy to have
time.
him.
It's a good
Yeah, I'm
time.
very happy to have him back because I don't know how much longer we were going to be able to just like
Yeah.
ride five guys into Kingdom Come. Though now we can do it with six guys, which is great. Uh, no, I just it was good to see him on the floor, and then the other thing I liked, or that I wish we had seen more of was just like I just don't understand like the usage of quickly at all. I really don't. Like we know this guy can handle the ball. Like when he's on the floor with Deuce, I don't ever want to see Deuce bring the ball up unless like quickly's being trapped or something. But there were clearly like plays where you see quickly inbound the ball for Deuce or give the ball up to Deuce and let him bring it up. And it's like I I 100% do not believe that quickly is just like, oh, I got to get Deuce, like, I got to get Deuce going here. Like, no,
You know when
anything.
that's okay? When your point guard plays 40 minutes and you need to give them a little breather and you're like, all right, at least we can spare him the ball pressure for a couple of seconds before he gets into our offense. But IQ played 20 minutes. He doesn't need that. He's fine.
Well, like, and
For
that
the
was what I
first
was going
time in like 2 weeks. He didn't play
yeah.
40 minutes.
And what I was going to say is in that fourth quarter, like, you see that Brunson's struggling a bit with bringing the ball up against TJ and that TJ's hounding him the entire way up. Why not have quickly bring it up? Because he was being defended by, like, who? Like, fucking Nemhard or Buddy Hield. Buddy's not pressuring anybody for like the full floor, and Nembard can try. I don't think he's going to be like particularly great at it. But why are you just forcing Brunson to do this? Like the entire point that he brought up in the post game, right? This is what he said: is that he wanted to have another ball handler on the floor. Okay, you brought another ball handler forward. What the fuck do you want to do with him other than you just want him out there? Just see, I had two guys. Like, okay, the point is to help Brunson effectively, right? Help your offense flow better, help it get into their sets better. So let quickly bring the ball up. Even if you want the ball to, if you want him to bring it up and be frank and immediately toss the ball to, Brunson and clear the fuck out, fine. But let him just do that and save Brunson those that energy. I just these those are the small things where I think that is coaching, and I think that it does add up in the end, in the aggregate. We can sit here and be like, well, the win's all that matters, and how are you upset about this? And we're gonna make the playoffs anyway, and you're gonna yeah, we probably will. But you know what? You don't want to go to the playoffs and have no extra gear, and that can be in the sense of you don't have any tactical pivots, you don't have any lineup pivots, you don't have any, you know, um, set plays out of timeouts you've been working on, or in this case, just making sure guys have something left in the tank and that they don't just use it all just to get there. Because we did see that to an extent a few years, a couple years ago, where you just had no juice left in that series.
You need counters. You need curveballs. Like yesterday, we got fucking lucky. Let's say it is what it is. They had a great fourth quarter, and they had great tactical adjustments. But the Pacers went 12 of 39 from three. Buddy Hield went 7 of 15. The rest of the team is not going to shoot that bad all the time. When we face teams that are better than the Pacers, that's just not going to happen. Mathurin was 5 of 9 from the free throw line. They're it could, just it could look better if the Knicks hit some of those fourth quarter threes. It could look better if the Pacers hit some of their open shots in the first half and in the second half too. It's not crazy. Yes, and it's a make or miss league. Good offensive teams, even they are gonna have nights where they miss from three or whatever. But you just leave stuff on the table, and that shit is more acceptable early on in the lifespan of a team when it's all right, the guys are new, you're trying to simplify it. They're 19 years old, 20 years old, or whatever, and obviously the team is still young, but Mitch, Julius, RJ, these guys have been playing together for a while. Yeah, Brunson's new, but everybody else is pretty much there. Even Grimes, he's new-ish, but we've always had some kind of shooter there, right? Or whatever. So it's not, it's Bullock, it's Fournier, it's Grimes, whatever. But this is the time. All right, we're in year 3 or whatever. Make some adjustments, dude. And we beat the dead horse to death, to life, and back to death. But it's just, you just know it's gonna come back to bite you. And it's like I said last week, it's insane that people think we should not be capable of asking for more from a team as fans. Just as a philosophical point, what the fuck does that even mean? Just because entirely different Knicks teams with entirely different coaches and front offices and entirely different human beings being employed for them were bad means I can't wish for better from this entirely separate group of human beings. This makes no logical sense. What does the fuck does the Isaiah Thomas Knicks have to do with me being happy and wanting more from this very well constructed team with a coach who I know, like you said, understands some of this shit, and it's
I
just
think he gets all of it. I don't think I
yeah.
think he gets all of it. He just is. He believes that if you execute the things that he wants to execute and you execute them better,
then that outweighs the weaknesses of not
Right.
having the change ups and da 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 da.
right. And that's how he's always been, and that's just what he thinks. And to be in some it's not actually too dissimilar to somebody like Steve Kerr at his core, because Steve Kerr at his core believes that no, we're not going to run high pick and roll because we trust our kumbaya offense and everybody has to touch the ball and we're going to flow into these 7,000 sets no matter what. And it's yeah, and guess what? He's lost some playoff games because of that. And there have been he's had to, and there are times, what he does sometimes now at the end of games? He'll just give the ball to Steph Curry and get the fuck out of the way. Yeah, there's you have to, every coach it's like Steve Kerr might be he has a similar concept in the entire opposite philosophy of somebody like Tom Thibodeau, but they're actually both very stubborn guys. But you have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to embrace things that you don't necessarily want to do all the time, and that's
Or
fine.
different lineups.
Right, that's it. I don't, and again, I don't think Tibbs is really that far off from being 99% of what I would ideally want, but that last 5, 10, 15%, however much it is, that's the part that he's, it's hard for him. So, all right, before we continue, the NFL playoff picture is locked in, and my go-to place for wild card round action is DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off the road to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get 200 in free bets instantly. Plus, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat bet each day of the wild card round this weekend. Just place any NFL bet of your choice, and if it loses, you get a free bet back up to $10. Action so good, why bet NFL playoffs anywhere else? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TBPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL and get 200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
I got a question for you. I was talking to one of my
Yeah.
boys who's a Pacers fan. They exist. That's right. It's not just Mark and Caitlin. If you were the Pacers, would you hang tight, sell off, or get reinforcements?
I would sell off.
I wonder what they can get for Buddy and Miles. I mean, I don't know who else you're moving, but I mean, you should be able to get something.
Yeah, I just don't really understand. What are you building with those guys? They're not.
The way I see it, the argument for keeping them.
Okay, Miles is more acceptable for me to keep because he's what, 26 or 27. He's actually not that old.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, I'll just say this: I don't think Halliburton is that great. I think he's fine. I think he's an okay player. I think he's pretty solid, but I think his offense is super overrated. I don't think his shot creation matters that much at all. I don't buy his shot creation at a high level ever. I think that he'll be, what is he, 19 points per game right now? He's got the ball
20,
in his hands.
Yeah,
he's got the ball in his hands a ton. But he's never going to be one of these 25, 26, 27 point per game guys. That's fine. You don't need to be. That's totally okay. But to that point, and I also think yesterday you saw just that little bit of less space he has without Miles on the floor. Man, all of a sudden those driving lanes are a lot more. They're not as comfortable, and for a guy who doesn't really get to the rim and doesn't love contact as much as Halliburton doesn't love contact, all of a sudden that's a lot harder to negotiate. So, all of a sudden those easy pick and pop passes for threes that you can rack up bullshit fucking video game number assists with, those are harder to get. I thought you saw a lot of his limitations come to the fore, and that is against the Knicks, who don't do much game plan specific shit for him.
The Knicks don't do a lot of game planning, but I think roster wise, they're fucking. It's not, to me, his stats versus the Knicks overall in the last 5 games are not good. I think he's just not shooting well from 3, and he's shooting 44%, which is fine, but low for him. And it's because they have physical defenders on the perimeter, and they are one of the few teams that's really committed to Mitch on the inside and physicality on the inside, physicality on the outside. But then you look at the East, right? The division he's in, and okay, look at Boston at the top, and it's the same thing. It's physicality inside, physicality outside. Sixers, same thing. Milwaukee, same thing. So that shit's all good versus a lot of teams in the NBA, but in the place he's plying his trade for the foreseeable future, it's something he's going to figure it out. And the answer to it really is, I don't know how many threes per 100 he's taken up. The time Halliburton strikes the most fear into me is actually not when he's like you said, his playmaking, it's very good, and it works because it's a perfect fit. Like Carlisle's just done a masterful job of like putting guys in great roles to me this year up and down that roster. But what strikes the most fear into me is when Halliburton, like once or twice a game, he'll just be like, "I'm pulling up from 32. Like fuck it, I'm taking my weird ass shot and I'm doing like Dame style. Like I'm just pulling up because he can make that, but he chooses he does like academy. He has academy brain a little bit, and he's like, "No, I gotta run the offense." Da 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 da. And I know Carlisle would be okay with that shit. That's the funny part. Like I know Carlisle. Buddy does that shit. I know Carlisle would be okay with that shit. And until he gets a little more uncomfortable and rewires himself, it's gonna be tough unless they eventually get like a real top gun to kind of relieve some of that shot creation pressure. Because obviously, if you're like second or third guy, then it becomes a little more acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, Matherin maybe becomes that guy, but like,
Yeah,
I,
who
I,
knows?
yeah, I mean, I don't get the point of Buddy on this team. Like, what is he? 31? I mean, I get
Yeah,
him in the immediate context of what he
Miles
is.
makes more sense to me because, like, to me, if you're gonna employ non-young guys, not like you said, Miles is not. He's not. He's
He's like
Julie.
Julius.
Yeah, they're this. That's why they're bros or whatever. I think they're both from Dallas.
Yeah, they are.
And um, as an aside, like half this draft class is from Dallas, so I don't know what they got going on over there, but they're cooking. Um, a stretch five and a rim protector is always good for player infrastructure development. Like it's just good. It's just good for how long did we wish RJ had a little more space to work on his drives and whatever. Um, and on defense, like you saw, Isaiah Jackson is my son, but there's just a really there's a really huge drop off in rim protection from Miles to Ijax and Jalen Smith and Goga. So it gives, in some ways, like not having Miles, it exposes a lot of their defensive issues. Like I had Mark on draft Strickland and we were talking about Matherin and we were obviously like glowing about a lot of his offense, but Mark straight up was like, his defense is actually a tire fire. He's 20. It's not the end of the world, but like it's a tire fire. Like it is what it is. And it's, again, not the end of the world, but like without Miles there, you got no one cleaning it up. You see how rough their perimeter defense really is. Because normally McCullough doesn't play TJ McCollum and Andrew Nemhard together because that's not going to work on offense most of the time unless you happen to be getting a zillion fast break points. So Miles I get for the infrastructure, but Buddy, it's like he's good for, obviously he's helps you for winning games. He's an amazing shooter, but you have to weigh that against, when you're weighing that against gaining an asset. To me, his great offense and spacing is less important than what Miles brings in terms of development. And you could probably get something pretty solid for Buddy still, because there's lots of teams that I'm sure would love the league leader in 3-pointers.